Hello, everyone, and welcome to the UIU Los Angeles page. My name is Buchilo, and thank you, everyone, for coming. Today, we're going to be talking about managing commitments in your professional life. We have an amazing host, so please, thank you, everyone, for coming. We're going to wait and get more people to join, and as soon as we do that, then we will continue from there. We're going to give people at least some minutes to join. Then after that, we'll progress. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And if you're just joining us, please kindly follow, subscribe, all right, do whatever you need to do to be in touch with what we're doing. So my name is Buchilo. I am an attorney, and sorry if I'm looking down. I'm going to be reading some few things from my laptop today. I am an attorney as well as the committee chair for UIU Business and Professional Development. So we'll be having some amazing speakers. If you know you're meant to be on this show today, please send in a request to join. Just in case I can't accept you, send a request to be on my live, and I will accept you. All right. So we're gonna wait for some folks to join us, more folks to join us, and get other people to get themselves ready. But we're excited to have you here. We're gonna be here for just 1 hour. Then after that, we will call it a day. So thank you for coming. Thank you everyone for coming. If you've not followed us yet, please kindly do follow us. We would love to have you follow the UIU BP, UIU Los Angeles Instagram page. All right. So, having said that, I am going to read the bio of our speaker today. Our speaker's name is Terrance J. Evans. Terrance is a partner in the San Francisco and Los Angeles offices of Dwayne Morris LLP, where he serves as the co-leader of the firm's banking and financial services practice. 1 second. I think someone wants to... Before I bring in the speaker, Ogwike, I would like you to send in a request to join as well. All right. So Terrance his practice is focused on representing clients in federal and state trial and appellate courts across the United States. And let me know if you can all hear me. I hope everyone can hear me. I hope there's no problem with the audio. Across the United States, including the Supreme Court. Terrance also regularly counsels clients regarding racial justice and diversity and inclusion issues. He has led dozens of diversity trainings for judges, lawyers, law students, and members of the community around the United States. Terrance is the president of the Charles Houston Bar Association, the oldest black bar association in California. He's the co-founder and co-chair of the CLA that's the California Lawyers Association Racial Justice Committee, as well as the immediate past chair of the litigation section of the California Lawyers Association, and the co-chair of the American Bar Association ICLC Diversity and Inclusion Committee, as well as the member of the Bar Association of San Francisco Judicial and Financial Committees, and the director of Region 9 of the National Bar Association, where he represents all black lawyers, all black judges, and all black bar associations in the Western USA on the National Bar Association Board of Governors. And he is the first black man elected to serve as a statewide representative on the board of the California Lawyers Association. Terrance has spoken at more than 150 diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and civil rights programs in partnership with more than 50 law schools, bar associations, colleges, universities, high schools, law firms, churches, and other organizations. In 2016, Terrance was honored by the National Bar Association as one of the top African American attorneys in the USA under age 40. In 2017, he was honored by the Charles Houston Bar Association for his work promoting diversity and inclusion in the legal profession. Terrance is also a graduate of Loyola Law School in Los Angeles with recognition. He also graduated from Cornell University, where he was a Cornell Tradition Fellow. So it's a pleasure of mine, and as well as a pleasure of the UIU Los Angeles today, to welcome Mr. Terrance J. Evans into this live. We're going to give them a moment to join us. Thank you, BK, for joining. Hold on there.
Hey, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. So thank you so much for being here with us. We're also having I don't know. I think Obina. I don't know if Obina wants to join. It's only three guests can be in your live. Obina, are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to get out of here, man.
Okay. Apologies. I wasn't sure. So thank you everyone for being here today. There's an echo somewhere. I don't know if am I getting an echo?
I don't hear an echo on your end.
Everything is clear, right?
Yeah, everything is clear.
All right, perfect. So Mr. Terrance, thank you very much. I know that bio cannot do justice to who you are as a person. We're excited to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be here with all of your distinguished members, and I'm really happy to have this important conversation with you.
Awesome, awesome. So to dive right in, I want you to, give me a brief introduction on why you've chosen this path. This part of life that you chose. Racial equality, justice, as well as law. Founding the foundation of the California Lawyers Association, being one of the black. So all these beautiful things that you're doing in society to help black people, to help African people in diasporas, to help, the United States, as a whole. Why did you choose this path?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So I think a lot of it has to do with the values that my parents instilled in me when I was growing up. A sense of community, a sense of giving back, a sense of recognizing how we all fit together. And I think when we think about success and achievement, it needs to be more than just an individual assessment of what makes somebody successful or what makes somebody a productive member of society. We need to really think about how we all fit together and how your success is important to my success and how your achievement is important to my achievement. Right now, we are living in a very critical moment in American history, but also world history, where there is an active movement to erase the contributions of Black people, not only to the United States, but the world. There is an active movement to miseducate young people about who we are and what our place is in the world. And I'm specifically referring to the 34 states where they have passed critical race theory laws, where they no longer want to talk about the systemic racism. They no longer want to talk about slavery. They no longer want to talk about all of the disadvantages that Black folks and other people of color have had to overcome to get to where we currently are. They just want to pretend as if we all started on an even playing field, which we did not. And so I felt that it was important to give
Right.
voice to some of these issues. And a lot of that was exacerbated following the brutal murder of George Floyd, when I and others, including a good friend of mine, Adrianette Ciccone, Marjane Marufe, and Leif Deutsch, founded the Racial Justice Committee. We felt like we needed to do something other than just talk amongst ourselves, trying to educate folks, trying to create scholarship opportunities, and then fighting against this misinformation and all of these efforts throughout the United States to oppress our people. So I just felt I couldn't live my life just being happy, being a successful lawyer, and not thinking about what the implications are for everybody else. And that's one of the reasons why on August the 1st, we filed a brief with the United States Supreme Court in defense of affirmative action, because we thought it was important for the court to understand, at least from the California perspective, how the elimination of affirmative action has hurt Black people and other people of color, but hurt the state as a whole. California eliminated affirmative action more than 20 years ago with the passage of Proposition 209. And since that has happened, we have about half of the enrollment of Black people in colleges and universities in California, in law schools, medical schools, and dental schools. Similar for Hispanic population, where their representation is only about maybe 7 or 8% what it should be given their numbers in the state. So I just felt like they needed to understand how this experiment of disenfranchising people of color has not worked in California, and it is not going to work nationally. At the same time, I'm under no illusion that with a 6-3 conservative majority that we will prevail, but at least we're going to be there on the front lines fighting. And I'm
Mhm.
hopeful that if people are engaged in these upcoming midterms, that we'll have some change in the Senate. Perhaps we can hold on to the House of Representatives, and then we can legislate the change that we may not be able to get at the courts.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I want you to also, you have some few minutes to make a presentation. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna open that to you. We've already spent some couple of minutes. So I want you to go ahead, tell us what you're about to present to us, and just take it from here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I'll talk a little bit about my professional journey, how I got to where I am, and what my plans are to help empower our community as we go forward. So I grew up in a working class family in Inglewood, California. Inglewood, until recently, was the blackest city in California. Blacker than Oakland, blacker than Watts, blacker than Compton. And growing up in a working class family, there were a lot of things that we couldn't afford. There were a lot of things that we had to do without, but it gave me an appreciation for hard work. It gave me appreciation for struggle. And I always had a vision of where I wanted to be, that I wanted to better myself, not only for myself, but for my family and for my community. With the support of my parents, I worked really hard, made it to Cornell University, where I had really a wake-up experience, if you will, with racism in a way that I never had in Inglewood, because I was mostly surrounded by Black folks and other people of color. At Cornell, Black folks were only about 5% of the population, and it was right around the time that Prop 209, which eliminated affirmative action in California, was being debated nationally. So I found myself in classrooms where students who happened to be white were attacking me for being physically present in the classroom, telling me that I was taking away a seat that belonged to a white person, that I didn't deserve to be there, that I was there because of affirmative action. And at first I wasn't sure how to respond to this because I wasn't used to this type of interaction. But I realized when I thought about it that I was there in spite of all of the systemic racism I had to overcome. At Inglewood High School, where we had mandatory computer literacy courses with no computers, where we had AP history classes with textbooks that were 20 and 30 years old, where we had AP science courses with no materials to actually do the experiments that were being tested on the AP exam. Notwithstanding all of that, I still prevailed, I still succeeded, and made it to one of the top universities in the
Wow.
world and excelled there and made it on the dean's list there. And so I started turning around to those students who were telling me I didn't deserve to be there. And I said, you know what? I'm here and I'm doing better than you. And you had every advantage that you could have had, right? You went to prep schools. You had wealthy parents who could provide you with tutoring and access to everything. I had nothing. And yet, in spite of having nothing, I still made it and I still succeeded. And so I started thinking about how can I empower my community at Cornell? And so I got involved with the Minority Undergraduate Law Society, and I started mentoring young students who were making their way through the pipeline. I got involved with Umoja Sasa, which was the Black newspaper there. I was a resident of Ujima, which was the Afrocentric dorm on the campus. And I just really got involved with ways of how we can empower our community, how we can fight back. I was part of a protest where they wanted to eliminate the Africana Center, and they wanted to eliminate the African-themed dorm that we had. And they wanted to have a homogenized educational experience, which is something that is being pushed now with the critical race theory. And I was part of hundreds of Black students and minority students that laid out in the streets, and we prevented any traffic for hours. And this was in the middle of winter in Ithaca, New York, where it was like below zero. We were freezing, but we were determined to make a statement. We laid out there, we dared buses and cars to run us over, and we said, you are not taking away our African studies programs. You are not taking away our Africana department. You are not taking away our African-themed dorm without a fight. And we were able to force management to reconsider, and those institutions exist today because of the sacrifice that we made then. I continued that fight on to law school, came back to California, went to Loyola Law School, and I decided I wanted to use my degree to help my family, and also fight for justice. And I think when you're thinking about your personal success, you want to remember the folks who helped you get to where you are. So my parents made all kinds of sacrifices so that I could get here. I did not get here by myself. There are other people who made sacrifices for me to get here that provided me with scholarships and other things that I needed in order to get my education. And so when I finally made it and I became a lawyer, I wanted to reach back. And so I helped my mom get a new car because she had been driving this old car and couldn't afford a car. I got my dad a new car. I bought my parents a beautiful home so that they would have a nice place to live. I didn't want to just take care of myself or live some fancy lifestyle. And then I got involved in the Black Bar Associations. We created the Charles Houston Bar Institute, where we've raised now almost $200,000 in scholarships that we have given to the next generation of young Black legal talent. When I rose to power within the California Lawyers Association, and I became chair of the litigation section, I realized we had access to all kinds of resources that could be redirected to the community. So I created 5 scholarships: 1 scholarship for the Black community, 1 scholarship for the Hispanic community, 1 scholarship for the Asian community, 1 scholarship for the Native American community, and 1 scholarship for the LGBTQ community. And so far, we have raised well over $100,000 in scholarships that we have given out to help the next generation of people of color and underrepresented people make it. So again, when you're thinking about your own success, you always have to think about the generation that's coming behind you. You have to think about people who look like you, people who are struggling. You can't just get it for yourself. And when I see some, and I'm gonna, people may not like it, when I look at a lot of Black conservatives who don't support affirmative action, who don't support opportunities for other people of color, they have gotten it for themselves, but they don't care about anybody else who's coming along. When you look at Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court, who doesn't support any programs or policies or legislation to help the Black community, he's made it, but he doesn't care about anybody else. But we have to care about the next generation because we can't do this by ourselves, right? We can't fight systemic racism by ourselves. We can't get laws changed by ourselves. We can't get people elected and empowered by ourselves. We have to do it as a community. And I have realized that. And I have partnered with other like-minded people so that we can help bring on the next generation so that young people who are having the same struggle I did when I was coming, they know that there's somebody there who's reaching out a hand to pull them along so that they don't have to do this journey by themselves, because we're not going to be here forever. And I don't want our struggle to end when my life is over. I don't want to end when I retire. I want to say I pull somebody else along with me because I'm here because other people pull me along. Other people pave the way for me. And so we have to get out of this individual mentality where it's about me and what I can get. And we have to think about everybody. We have to think about the whole community. And that is where we have our greatest strength, when we come together and we fight as a community. And so that's what I'm hoping to do through the Charles Houston Bar Association, through the Racial Justice Committee, through my work as the director of Region 9 of the National Bar Association. I am going to help empower our people, and we have to do that, right? This kind of gets back to the debate between W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. Should we be building up our own institutions, or should we be trying to integrate in predominantly white institutions? I think we need to be building up our own people, because we see what's happening with the effort to roll back affirmative action, with the effort to miseducate our young people. If we have our own institutions, if we're investing in our own people, we're not reliant on somebody being generous and giving us. We can stand on our own 2 feet, and that is what our people to do. We don't care what they give us or what generosity they have. We are pulling up our own people, and we're fighting our own battles, and we're creating our own opportunities. And that's really what we're going to have to do as we move forward. I know I've been talking a lot, so I'll give you a chance.
Let's go. Listen, in the next 10 minutes, we're going to take a 5 minutes break, so we can have some water. I know that, we got to get our lips lubricated for this, because we have a lot to talk about. But if you're enjoying this so far, we have, amazing speaker in the house, Mr. Evans, an attorney, an activist, someone who believes in human rights, someone who believes in justice, someone who believes in community development. So if you're excited about this, please share this broadcast on your page, on your stories. Let people join us. So I'm going to pass it on to Ogwike at this point.
All right, all right. Terrance, that was very good, especially the last part about integrating versus making our own table. I resonate with that because I've kind of been more of a W.E.B. Du Bois type of person. Um, if I like a business, like, oh, how can I make that, or who can I support that's making that? That's black, of course. So I just wanted to say that I resonated with that. Um, but on to the next, topic of or the next, part of the live. I wanted to basically pose a few questions that me myself and I'm sure everybody tuned in would want to hear you answer, and just want to kind of keep it casual to of course on your businesses and your professional life in general. And I was when I was doing my research on you, I looked at your LinkedIn and I noticed so many different titles, like you've done so much, and I'm sure that you do a lot currently. So I wanted to ask, the first question I had in mind was like, what's a normal day in your professional life like?
No, that's a good question. So, and I'll just say a couple of things as kind of a prelude. For Black people, we can't be just mediocre or average in order to get the success that we want because of all of the systemic racism that we have to overcome. So we always have to be overqualified. We always have to be over the top just to kind of get somewhere in the middle because of the way the system is rigged. And I figured that the more opportunity that I had to have exposure, to get more experience, the better my chances were to develop my business and to get my name out there. So a typical day for me, and every day is a little different. I represent companies, lots of big companies in federal and state trial and appellate courts, all the way to the United States Supreme Court. So I have cases right now that are pending throughout courts in California and in other parts of the country. And so a lot of my day involves is in court, whether it's virtually or in person, getting briefs filed. I have a number of lawyers who work with me around the country, looking at drafts that they have, speaking with clients, dealing with exigent circumstances. But I also do a lot of work for the various nonprofits I'm involved with. So almost every day I'm raising money for the scholarship programs that I've created and that I support. So between working for the various clients, I'm reaching out to different law firms and businesses, asking them if they would support this scholarship that's going to help these young Black kids go to law school or help these young Black kids go to college. I'm reaching out to some of the legislators that I'm involved with about getting laws passed that will help protect our civil rights. And I'm reaching out to people in different other communities to see how we can partner. So for example, with the brief that we filed with the United States Supreme Court, we had 25 civil rights groups and bar associations join with us in the fight. I knew that if it was only Black people, that would not be a strong enough message. So I reached out to the Asian community and the Hispanic community and the Muslim community and all these different communities so that we could have a united front. So I'm doing all of that between everything I'm doing. And then, of course, there's lots of appearances like what we have here, where I'm doing Zoom meetings and speaking all between that. So it keeps me pretty busy.
Okay. All right, yeah, and like you said, that's a lot of things that you do during the day, and when you say all of that, it makes me like ask another question or think of another question where it's a little bit more personal, but how do you optimize? Like, do you use any organizational tools? Like, do you stick to like a calendar schedule? some people use apps. How do you basically optimize your time to make sure you're getting all of those things done and then still maintaining, a social life and a family life?
So it's a real team effort, and I know there are people who are part of my world who have different strengths. So I have a good friend who's amazing at social media, and he really helps us get the word out across our various social media platforms. I have people who are involved in the organization who take on different roles, and so you have to learn how to delegate. You can't do it yourself. You're worried about. You have to take some time for self-care, and I see that was one of the questions there for me.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I have to go to the gym. I have to work out. It's kind of how I stay sane, getting my exercise in. And then I have to have time off during the weekend. I would rather work really hard if it's 12 or 13 hours during the day, Monday, Friday. But I need my Saturdays and my Sundays, for the most part to myself so that I can decompress. I can spend quality time with my family. And then I always prioritize family over everything else. Obviously, work is important. I have to pay my bills. But if I need to take my mother to the doctor, if I have a family member I need to take to the dentist, or there's a special family event, I'm going to make time to do that because, life is short. Family is my top priority. And so that's what I do.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And it's those simple pleasures that, allow us to allow us to gain and garner the strength to accomplish the bigger things that we need to do, like going back to your peace, like whether that be your wife or husband or even children or even going to the gym. I definitely relate with that. I have two businesses which I do, and even with that, like it's not easy when when you're the one in charge of like delegating everything. Everything is really up to you. I take full inspiration in that. Again, looking at your title, seeing what you do, there's a lot of inspirations to be taken from, you know, what you do in your daily life. And, the most important thing to me as well, which I've had to learn, is delegation. I'm sure you know about that too on your Bucci. Just delegation, delegation, delegation. Anybody who says that they can do, anything by themselves is, they're mainly lying, and
Yeah.
yeah, and
He's a
delegation.
useful person.
Uh,
Anyone who's useful that can help out in reducing some of the workload, but still making progress.
The
Part of
workload, exactly, and making it efficient, not just shouting orders or anything, but actually like finding out people's strengths, weaknesses, and
exactly.
using or having them lean into that.
So
So
yeah. Oh, before
that
one
being
second.
said, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I wanted to find out. Do you guys want to take a break at this point, uh, or you want to just keep pushing it till we?
I'm good. There was actually a question in the chat from earlier that I wanted to respond to, and somebody asked about making change from the inside and on the outside, and I agree with that approach. So I work at a predominantly white law firm. We have about 900 lawyers. We're one of the largest firms in the country, and I found that I've been able to make change from the inside. So as I have risen to power within that firm, I have helped to modify our diversity and inclusion program so that we look more like the clients that we serve and more like the country that we operate in or the countries that we operate in. I've been able to take resources from that firm and share it with the predominantly Black and other organizations I'm involved with. And I've been able to get other people who are at predominantly white institutions to give back, whether it's scholarships or other opportunities, so that they can support a lot of the initiatives that I want. Many of the nonprofit organizations that are out there doing the work don't have the money to do a lot of the things they're trying to do. But I find that partnering with some of these larger institutions and getting them to share their resources with the nonprofit institutions has been a good way. One other way, too, is when I became chair of the litigation section. I was the first Black chair of the litigation section at California Lawyers Association. and I saw that we had there was hundreds of thousands of dollars that was being used on things that could be redirected to help the community. I decided to do it because I said, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And I said, I'm going to create a scholarship for the Black community. And I said, I'm not just going to help the Black community, I'm going to help all of these communities of color, because I felt like it was something that needed to be done. And I think when we get Black people in positions of power, you can't be afraid to use that power to help your own community. Some people
Right.
are afraid because they're afraid people are going to say you're showing favoritism. But I think you should not be afraid to use your power to help your community. And that is what I do. And I think that the more success you have in your professional career, the more leverage and latitude you'll have to do that.
But why do you think people are afraid? Where do you think this fear comes from?
I think the fear comes from because they don't want to jeopardize their own position in that institution, right? They may be the only Black person or one of a few Black people. And so if they kind of go with the flow and don't rock the boat, they're less likely to put their position in jeopardy. But I think we have to be willing to use some of our own personal capital, our own professional capital, to help other people, because otherwise, why are we there? If we're not willing to sacrifice a little bit of ourselves, we can't just simply hope that other people are going to help our community. When we are in the position of power, we have to be willing to use that power to help other folks. And that's where it comes to getting back to the professionalism. You have to be on point, right? You're not going to get the benefit of the that a lot of white folks get. You're not going to get the presumption of competence. So you always have to be on top of your game. And when you bring that type of excellence to your work ethic and your professional life, it will make it easier for you to bring in clients and business and opportunities that you're hoping to attract. And that is what I have done in building my practice. And then I've used that to give back to the community.
Excellent. Excellent. So yeah, let me go ahead and ask you this question. And okay, I want you to mute, see if you can mute your Instagram for, let me see. I want to see if it reduces the echo. If I speak, if we can mute our, let me see, does it reduce the echo? Do you guys, are you muted, okay? Okay, can you guys hear me though? Okay, all right. But yeah, Mr. Evans, you don't have to mute yours though. Just keep yours.
Okay.
We've been getting complaints about an echo, so I want to be sure where it's coming from. All right, so I want to find out from you, what's your advice? I know this topic for today is managing commitments in your professional life. For those who are just joining, we have an amazing speaker, Mr. Evans, here talking to us about his own approach and how he's been able to succeed in his professional life, in his career to this point. And if you don't know who this man is, please go check him out on LinkedIn. So do you want to say your name on LinkedIn for the people who are here?
Oh, sure. Terrance J. Evans, or Terrance Evans. If you look me up, you'll be able to find my profile. And then on Instagram, it's the Bearded Black Lawyer. So you can find me that way as well.
Do you have any book? Have you written any books for us yet?
You know, I have some books, but I don't think people are going to be interested. I've written the advanced issues in mortgage foreclosures, which is one of the top books on the topic. But really, if you go to my YouTube channel, Terrance J. Evans, there are links to different publications that I've written. I've written lots of stuff on racial justice for Bar Association of San Francisco. Also, if you go to the California Lawyers Association racial justice page, you'll see videos and racial justice publications that I've written there on that page.
Awesome, great. So, so what's your advice for someone who has a problem saying no? There's a lot of people who sometimes, they get bombarded with so many things and they find it difficult to say no. What's your advice for someone like that?
If you have difficulty saying no yourself, find somebody in your life who can say no for you, right? Have somebody who can be that filter for you. So whether it's a friend, whether it's your significant other, whether it's an assistant who can kind of be the buffer between you and somebody, but find somebody to filter these communications through. So for example, instead of taking everything directly, have them go through your assistant or your friend or your business partner or somebody who will feel a bit more able to stand up for you and say, hey, we're not able to do this. This is what we can do. And always find an alternative, right? There are people who reach out to me for legal advice on things that I am not an expert in. So I direct them to somebody else. I said, you know what? I'm not the best person for you for this, but I have a friend over here who has the experience that you need. So also be willing to redirect people to other places where they can get the help that they need.
Awesome. And if you have questions, please put the question in the chat or put the question in the question portal, and we'll make sure to follow your questions as well. My next question for you, sir, is how do you manage, burnouts when it seems like your workload is a lot? How do you manage it?
Yeah, so for me, you have to be able to take breaks. I think that's important. For me, taking weekend breaks, sometimes during the week, obviously not when there's a major deadline or something like that, I realize I need a mental health break. And so I'll say, you know what, I am going to clear my calendar for the rest of the day, or I'm going to take tomorrow off. I'm going to push some appointments, a few days out, and I'm just going to take time for me. Because if you burn out, you don't get to yourself, you don't get to your family, you don't get to your community, and find other people who can help you. And so I actually did that this week. We had a important member of our organization who unfortunately passed away, and the family wanted me to speak at the memorial service, but the memorial service was like a 5 or 6 hour drive away from where I live. I found a friend who was able to go to that memorial service on behalf of our organization, and I did not have to make a special trip to go there. There are other things that come up where you can give somebody else an opportunity to fill in for you so that they can get that experience and you can take some time for yourself. So always be willing to take time for yourself and preserve your mental health. That's important. And we're actually going to be doing a mental health program. This is on September the 20th. And you'll be able to find this out if you go to the Charles Houston webpage. We're creating the registration link over the weekend, but it's going to be September the 20th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to have an amazing Black psychologist who is going to join us for a conversation on how to preserve your mental health. And there's going to be a way to anonymously ask questions about any mental health challenges that you have. I'll just make this one additional point. A recent study by the ABA found that 1/3 of Black lawyers had contemplated suicide because of stress on the job, which was higher than any other demographic. So mental health is really important.
Right, definitely, especially for professionals. Some people are watching us right now. You are doing multiple things. Ogwike has, 2 jobs. He also has another job, that he's supposed to be also doing. So people are juggling so many things. You're a working professional. You're flying day in, day out sometimes. So I know that to be able to still function appropriately, I remember when I was chatting with you, I was like, and you told me how long you've been in the bar. He has been in practice of law for over 20 years, guys.
Well, not over, but almost 20 years.
Oh, almost, okay.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years. And how would you wouldn't know that? So, and he said it was, great skincare routine you mentioned.
Yeah, black don't crack, right? Black don't crack.
Exactly. So, next question I have for you is, how do you generate new ideas and how do you go about to bring them to reality?
So a few different ways. One, I think humility is really important. So that's something that rarely gets talked about when we're talking about success. For all of the people who work on my team, regardless of how junior they are, regardless of whether they're a lawyer or not, the legal assistants, the people doing the research, people bringing them out, I always tell them, feel free to tell me anything. If you see that I'm making a mistake, if you think I'm going in the wrong direction, if you think there is a better way to do something, reach out and tell me, and I'm going to listen and I'm going to take that in. The same with the Bar Association. I said, tell me anything. If you think that there is a better way to do something, be open to that. And I think if you're humble and you're willing to listen to other people and you invite them to give you that type of professional criticism and feedback, I think you'll get lots of new ideas and you'll be able to refine your ideas and you'll be able to do better. So never think that you're too good or too smart or too successful to receive information from other people.
Okay. Thank you very much. And my next question, and after this, I'm going to let Oguke ask the rest of the questions. Oguke, you have the right? Yeah, you have the questions in front of you. But
Yeah,
what's your definition of success?
Oh, sorry, the sound cut out. Can you repeat that?
So I was asking, what's your definition of success?
Hmm. I think success is the impact that you're able to have on those around you, and the legacy that you're able to leave for those who come behind you. I don't measure success in just um, material things, material accomplishments, right? So it's really not just about what kind of car you have or house you have or clothes you wear. For me, success is more what will last beyond all of those material things, right? We can't take those material things with us. Oprah is a billionaire, Bill Gates is a billionaire, but when they leave this earth, they're not going to be able to stuff those houses and cars and cash in that coffin with them. They're leaving all of that stuff here. But what could last beyond that is the impact that they've had on the lives of others. What have you done? What kind of community have you built? What kind of things have you done to help folks after you're gone? And so that is what I consider success. So my hope is that whenever I leave this earth, and hopefully that's way, way into the future, that these scholarships that I've created, that these organizations fighting for racial justice that I've invested my life in, that they will continue to help, that the young people that we've invested in, help them to go to college and law school, that they will still be here fighting the good fight. So I think that's what real success is.
Awesome. I'm going to ask this question from one of our audience members, Obiageliaku. She's the UIU LA, the Umu Igbo Unite. And for those who are just joining us, this is the Umu Igbo Unite Los Angeles. We are a professional group of young people from the African diaspora who, talk about culture, community, business, life, and we're just a very fun group of people to be a part of. So please follow us on Instagram as well as Facebook and all the other social media platforms. So Obiageliaku, the UIULA president, asked this question. She was, do you have any memorable advice from the mentorship you have received that you have held on to in climbing your career that you feel that can be applied in other areas?
Yes, that's a really good question. So some advice that I got from one of my high school teachers, his name was Mr. Carter. Uh, One of his phrases that he would use all the time is never be satisfied with your own success. Never be satisfied. And what he meant by that is never get to a point where you think you have made it and now you can just kick back and rest on whatever you have achieved in the past. You always have to be hungry for self-improvement and knowledge and understanding. And that's especially important as a professional, right? Because you may feel like you have built your business, you've built your career, but there is always somebody coming to invade in your space, to take your customers, to take your clients, to take a share of your business. And if you become too comfortable where you're not listening to those who you're providing service to, somebody can come and snatch all of that away from you. So always being hungry, always thinking about self-improvement, never thinking that you've made it and now you can kick back. I think that's really been some of the best advice that I've gotten.
All right, awesome. Ogunke, please take it from here with the rest of the questions and close up.
All right, no problem. So I wanted to piggyback off of what you said with success and complacency. It is definitely like something you need to not do. You look at Blockbuster, Netflix, that pipeline, a lot of these companies, Circuit City, that have like stayed in the past, like you said, they didn't listen to feedback, and they weren't able to roll with the times and adapt. Whereas you have companies like Microsoft and Apple who withstood the test of time. So I wanted to like kind of like relate that to you and for other people in here, on behalf of BPD, like, in the business mindset. Um, Speaking of success, what has been, I know, we just said that it shouldn't be measured in material things, but for can you actually pinpoint a time in your career where you just, kick back and said, wow, like I really am that dude, like, or, I really did that,
There have been times where it didn't feel real, and there are even times now, and maybe that gets into that whole imposter syndrome, where none of this feels real. And I feel really blessed and fortunate to be where I am. There are very few Black partners who are at international law firms. I think the percentage is about 2% of partners at major firms are Black. There are very few that also have their own book of business. And I've been very fortunate that I represent a lot of clients that bring in a lot of revenue. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for what I've been able to do for my family. One thing, though, that has been important, getting back to that other point you made, is not being afraid to reinvent yourself. And I've had to do that many times. So I'm not doing the same thing I did at the beginning of my career. When I first was hired by my very first private law firm, I was doing a lot of criminal work. I was doing some employment. From there, I went to a firm where I did first party insurance coverage. I did some auto accident cases. I realized that was not my passion. I left and I went to a firm where I did a lot of professional liability work, where I was defending architects and accountants and other design professionals. And then I started looking for better opportunities, and I went to a firm in the Bay Area where I did a little bit of banking. I did some higher end third party coverage where I was representing contractors in these major construction cases. And then I wanted more of a challenge, and I went to a firm where we were dealing with multi-billion-dollar insurance coverage claims involving the US government and some of the biggest companies in the world. And having to challenge myself and rise to the occasion. Even after I did that, I realized that if I wanted to have my independence, I needed to have a different expertise. And there was an opportunity to start a banking practice in California for my firm, which was scary because I knew nothing about banking. And I spent the weekends reading and studying and learning everything I could as I slowly built the practice. I got certified in all the bankruptcy courts. I started learning about transactional real estate deals and no purchase deals. So I kept reinventing myself over and over again. When I got involved in civil rights cases and elder abuse cases, I had no experience in that area, but I learned and I studied how to do that type of work. And each stage of my career, I have had to reinvent myself in order to survive, because you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to have just one big client or just a few people. You want to have a broad spectrum of work and business opportunities so that no one person can put you out of business. And that's really what I've tried to do. And even recently, I brought in a new major client that has been in existence since 1832. And I recently learned that I am the first Black lawyer they've hired in their 190-year history, which is crazy. But even for that, I had to study and learn for a couple reasons. One, you want to show them that you can do the work, but two, you want to challenge yourself and put yourself in a different area.
Got it. Thank you so much. Man, that answer really resonated with me because I'm in a point where I'm like reinventing myself. And, I'm sure it resonates with a lot of us in the organization because most of us, are in our mid, late to like, late 20s to early 30s. So we're kind of like, have already started like our careers. So, segueing into the last question, what advice would you give for new graduates or for people who are just starting off in their careers in general? And if you want to get specific, like with your career, with law, you can also do that as well.
Sure. So a couple of things. One, you need to have a thick skin, right? So my road has not been easy. I have worked for people who yelled at me, who cussed at me, who screamed at me, who threatened me. I've had to deal with a lot of verbal abuse, but I knew that I needed to get the skills so that I could get to where I wanted to go. So I took that abuse. You also need to be very humble because there are people in the workplace who may not have a title who are in a position to help you. So in the legal world, there are legal assistants who will know way more than any lawyer who's graduated from any law school. I don't care if you went to Harvard Law School. Those legal secretaries know more about the law and know more about how to get documents filed with a court than you can hope to. I still rely on my legal assistant. So staying humble and learning, and also be willing to put in time that you may not get credit for. So in the legal world, we bill our time, but in order to learn your craft and to get really good at it, you're going to have to give up some weekends and some late nights, and you may not be able to get billed or paid for that time, but you are investing in yourself because you need to have absolutely unquestionable good skills. So if you're a young professional, you want to learn your craft, you want to be very good at your craft. And after you get those skills, after you start to build a reputation for yourself, you'll be able to write your own ticket because you'll know what you're doing. So put the feelings aside, put the bravado aside, humble yourself, be willing to take some abuse, and then get to where you really want to go after you develop those skills. You just have to get your foot in the door.
Got it. Thank you so much for that wonderful answer, and thank you so much for your time that you've given to us today. We wanted to basically ask the audience if there are any other questions. Kind of open the floor and see if anybody has any other questions for Mr. Evans, and if not, we can take it from there.
We're getting comments. Some people were saying they really enjoyed the program today. If you know you really enjoyed it, please kindly follow the UIU Los Angeles page so you keep track of our next event. And please, if you have any questions, this is your time. You can see we're getting comments. This session is too insightful to be free. Yes, we're going to be hosting our next event. It's going to be in person. You never know. But please keep track of the UIU LA page and also keep track of the Business and Professional Development Committee because we will be having in-person events like this as well. So other than that, if there are any more questions, if there are questions, please ask the questions now. We only have 7 more minutes before we round up this program.
Mr. Evans, is there any other way we can connect with you besides Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can connect with me on YouTube. You can connect with the Charles Houston Bar Association. We have a newsletter that actually goes out 3 times a week. I mentioned we have some amazing programs. We have a program that is again on September 20th with mental health. On October the 13th, we have a program that is going to talk about civil rights and racial justice. It's the 10th anniversary of doing these type of programs. We have, and somebody was just asking, any spaces where Black professionals support one another. We have an in-person event, and again, this is going to be on our Facebook page and on our website. It's September the 15th, and we're going to have a fireside where you can come and have drinks, delicious food. It's going to be in Oakland. It starts at 5:30 p.m. And I'll share the information so that you can all get it. But again, it's going to be a way to connect with people in person and get some of that important advice. Let's see. I was trying to go through some of the other.
Someone asked, who's your inspiration? Who's your inspiration?
Who is my inspiration? I would say that it is many of the Black lawyers and judges and folks who put their lives on the line to pave the way. And I feel like I want to continue great work. I don't want it to fall by the wayside.
All righty. Is that all on your end, okay? Any more questions?
Not on my end. It looks like we're good to go. Mr. Evans, again, we really appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Your information
later. Why did you choose? I have one. Why did you choose the bearded Black lawyer?
Bearded Black. I'm like, you know what? I'm Black. I got a beard. I'm going to be the bearded black lawyer. So yeah, follow me on social media and hear about a lot of the great work that we're doing in the community. We also, if you're in the Bay Area, would love to have you at our gala. It's going to be December 3rd at the Hyatt in San Francisco. We have Lanita Baker, who was the attorney who represented the family of Breonna Taylor. She's the new president of the National Bar Association. We're going to have Venus Johnson, who is the second most powerful lawyer in the California Department of Justice, a powerful black woman. And we're going to be honoring civil rights leaders at that event. It is where the who's who of the black community in the Bay Area comes out, but it's open to everybody. So come dressed to impress and, help us raise some money for scholarships. That's December 3rd, 6 p.m., San Francisco.
All righty. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you, Mr. Evans. Appreciate you, Oguike. Thank you for, being my right-hand man in this one. Thank you, everyone that has joined us today. This is the UIU Los Angeles page. Follow us, like us, and we'll be bringing more of this amazing events to your doorstep. All right. You all have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, okay? Absence of anything? All righty. Peace. Thank you all.